All right, welcome back, everybody. So I was doing a bit of triaging during the break to figure out how the heck I was going to cover all the material. Because there's so much here, and it's obviously I was realizing that I'm a little bit passionate about it. So where we left off was we were talking about why why we have to continually go for refuge and understanding. And by just bringing in what I call it's like microdosing emptiness. Like you're just dropping in a little bit of emptiness into whatever affliction of the day you're having. And those afflictions carry us. I mean, they really do carry our moods. They carry how we feel about ourselves, how we view ourselves, whether we view ourselves as empowered, whether we view ourselves as disempowered or hopeless. And if you just think of it like, microdosing, just put a little bit in, just like little fairy dust, just a little bit of emptiness. And bit by bit, it gets stronger and stronger. And eventually it gets strong enough where it can actually interrupt the affliction. And maybe even stop it. Right. And so I ended by talking about, what's the name of the game here, right? Part of it is just saying the same thing over and over again in many, many different ways, right? Like if A didn't work, then B works, then C works, and then go back to A again. But it's really about when you have those moments, how do you prevent those seeds from growing? How do you then prevent that road rage from turning into some incredibly awful experience? One moment of road rage could turn into 6 months of just like general negativity. Or you have someone yelling at you all the time, or worse than that, right? And so how do we, when we finally recognize that we planted a bad seed, that's the first step, right? You don't even recognize you did it. Like the speed at which they fly out, like you can't even grab them. It's just they're already out. Like you can't even grab like the mental image as it flies out of you. It's like it's too late. And so recognizing that that seed will grow, but you have to have the recognition at first. You have to first recognize it and catch it. And I don't know, I guess it's an interruption. And so Shantideva gives us other reasons, right? Like, is it, excuse me, is it just enough? Like to think, oh, I need to interrupt this seed because it's going to continue on and grow into something I don't want, right? That might not be enough power behind it to to offset the flow of your negativity, right? But what happens if we don't make efforts in the four powers? What will grow is, next slide, Brian, is that we'll continually not understand seeds and their consequences, right? See, this guy is kind of confused. He's like, huh? If we don't make those efforts, could you turn that a little bit? Thank you. If we don't continually make efforts, perfect, then our misunderstanding of karma and its consequences will grow. Like our not understand the connection between things. We'll understand the fake connections and not the real connections. Like someone asked me a question at the break, and I said, are those two things connected to each other? Right? And she made a face. She was like, right? And that's what happens when we have a misunderstanding and we allow the misunderstanding to grow, then it just, can't think of another synonym, it just keeps growing. Okay. Right? And so the reason we would need to do the four forces constantly, I'm sorry, could you turn this? Now it's too much. It's a little bit, it's like I feel like I'm like in a wind tunnel. That's better. Yeah, superstar. Yeah, here's a model over here. Is by working on the four powers, it's actually helping us build the understanding of karma and its consequences. And even if we don't know what creates what, even if we're not able to say, well, this creates that, for that understanding to arise. Like, okay, I know that anger is going to cause something. I know that pride is going to cause it. I know that, look, when you get good at this, you'll feel the affliction before you put a name on it. Your body will just go, oh, like you'll feel it. Like, I'm not going to use that example. I'm starting to get tired, so I'm coming up with these things I only say with my friends sometimes. You know when you're going to have diarrhea. You can feel it. And you know whether it's going to be in 2 seconds or 15 minutes, right? Your body feels it and you go, I'm going to have to go to the bathroom soon. You know, sometimes it's worse than that, right? But it's the same thing with these negativities. When you start doing things that are going to plant bad seeds, eventually you feel it in your body. You go, oh, that's gonna hurt. But that thought of knowing that it's going to create a negative result is planting a seed for you to understand the relationship between the things you do and the results you get. So it's kind of cool. I'd like, thank you, Shantideva. That's really cool. Just doing the four powers helps me understand what seeds to plant when I'm confused. That's the answer to your question. Do the four powers. Like, on what? On everything. It doesn't matter. Like, just do it constantly. You know, and then that will help ripen the wisdom inside. Next slide. What's the question here? And doing the four powers also does another thing. It's a different way of saying what I just said. Is that we won't be able to follow even the things we do understand. So the four powers helps us purify those seeds to be able to follow what we do understand. Because look, you can sit in these classes all your life, every single day. And you can listen, 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 listen. You can take notes. You can do all the things. But if you don't have the karma to actually do it, to actually live it is a different karma. You might have attraction to the ideas. You might be, oh, I think this is the right way to live. I'm really attracted to learning how to be a better person and understanding cause and effect. Yes. But there's a gap between listening and doing. And we all struggle with this. I'm not like, we all struggle with this. I know. Like I can repeat it till I sleep these ideas. I dream these ideas, right? But there's a gap between the idea and then the action. Because we have habits of action from lifetimes that are just, they're on their track. They're just moving. Right? So the four powers starts to break that down and kind of cancel that space, that gap between our understanding and our practice. Which I think is another cool motive. Like Shantideva is pretty damn smart. like, because if any of these things are your problem, he's like saying, look, do the four powers and these problems will just resolve. Like people don't say, I don't know what seed to plant. Like I'm confused. Well, do four powers on your confusion. Okay. Like that's all, and eventually those things will start to soften a little bit, right? Like if you leave this plastic bottle out in the sun for long enough, right? It'll start to melt, especially the Arizona sun, right? It's kind of solid right now, but like you leave it out there long enough, it'll start smushing, it'll start taking other shapes, right? It still is, I don't want, I shouldn't squeeze this too hard because but eventually it'll change enough shape that you'll have an insight. But for the time being, before it changes shape, it doesn't feel like anything's changing. Right. And that's also an annoying part of this because you don't see the foundational changes that are happening until until the bottle, like, you shake it up and then it just, finally the pressure opens up and it changes. So it's really like we have years and years and years and lifetimes and countless eons of misunderstandings. So did you think that going to one Dharma class would then all of a sudden change your life? Well, first of all, it did. Okay. Just not the speed that the way you expect it to. But it's the little incremental like shifts, and the four powers really can let me just say that if you do a really good four powers, what comes out on the other side like can be absolutely extraordinary. Like when you really purify something. And that's what I'm going to say about that. Next, Brian. And finally, the other benefit is that it removes your obstacles to reaching the true wish for enlightenment. Okay. It removes the actual obstacles for that. Like there's the sugarcane version, there's the wish version, there's the I want to be a bodhisattva. And then there's the you finally flush all the crap down. And then you're like, oh, now. Now I feel lighter. Like now I get it, right? All right. So rejoicing in those are good deeds, even the smallest ones, like all of you here, like everything you did the last week, like you should have like a list of 100 little tiny things that you did and just use them for your evening meditation, like your evening coffee meditation. And we forget. We always forget. And I'm an equal forgetter. So don't think that I'm like, you know, again, I have to keep reminding myself, like, good night book club. It's now 10:17. You know, I missed it, right? But I still will read a little bit before I go to bed. You know, and if you did do something heavy during the day, like definitely do your 4 powers before going to bed. You don't want that stuff growing overnight, right? But really, so like, look, like as I said in last class, part of your practice is 4 powers. Oops. Like maybe we should play some Britney Spears. Oops, I did it again. We do it all the time, right? Like, oops, I did it again. Yes, I did it again. I do it every 5 minutes. I do it every 30 seconds. Okay. That seed's going to ripen into something bad. Okay, Tim. It has emptiness. Yes, fine. Okay, then I'm going to try to stop doing that. Okay. Now to go do something nice. Here, have a chocolate. Okay. I purified something a little bit. I did the opposite. Like I rejoiced in giving away a chocolate that landed on the floor, you know, right? But I tried to do something different. And Shantideva then says, you know, the problem with you humans is like you do the opposite of rejoicing. And everyone goes like, what are you talking about, Shantideva? And he goes, look, you spend all of your time doing the opposite of rejoicing. So slide 29, Brian, right? You figure out all the things that are wrong, and then you focus on them with single pointed tinnings in. Like you are so focused on the wrong thing, on the negativity, right? Jealousy. He says, jealousy is your enemy, right? You know, this guy's jealous of this other guy, right? Like he wants the girl, he's got her, and now he's jealous. Why can't I get that person? I'm terrible. No one loves me. Of course they don't love me, you know. Like, listen to the stories that go on in your mind once the jealousy starts. You know, someone was telling me the other day that like they use their jealousy to just like they use their jealousy and turn it into pride. Like they're jealous of the person and they're like, yeah, but at least I have Dharma. I almost fell off my chair laughing. It was so funny. Like, I'm jealous. They have more money than I do. So jealous. Yeah, but my girlfriend's really hot. What? Like that makes no, like what? Like you just turned your jealousy into two bad seeds. Like instead of rejoicing that somebody has a lot of money, right? You just then were like, well, yeah, at least my partner's hotter than yours. At least I have that, right? And then you turn it into pride, right? Or as I said, the best one is like, well, that person's so successful, but I have seeds. I know 4 steps. Has anyone ever said that? I'm looking at some of your faces. I think I'm catching you in your guilt. Like you're like, my life is suffering. Yours is better than mine, but I have seeds and you don't. Shut up, right? But that's what happens, right? And that's what Shantideva is saying is we anti-rejoice. We even use our Dharma practice to anti-rejoice. To make ourselves better than other people, we say, well, it's 10:30 at night on a Sunday in Taipei and we're learning ACI 17. Right? We're better than everybody else, right? I think it's cool that it's Sunday night and you're all still awake. I'm trying to stay awake. And I'm the one talking. You see? But anti-rejoice. Like, look at your life. And this is what Shantideva is saying. Look at your life and really evaluate, am I really rejoicing? Or am I just one of those anti-rejoicers? You know, and that is one of the hugest obstacles to any kind of success, your worldly success and your spiritual success. Like if you're wondering why your why your seeds aren't ripening the way you want them, the good ones aren't ripening the way you want them to, just get a journal out and call it anti-rejoicing. And every time you anti-rejoice, just write in it. And on the other side, every time you rejoice, write in it. Watch the anti-rejoiceables get longer and longer and longer. But I'm serious, like keep track of it. Not in this way of like track it so then you can like think about it more, right? Like I'm going to be so jealous of all those partners out there, like, but I have Dharma. Yeah, if I had Dharma, then I wouldn't be jealous. But secondly, I would know how to create a partner and I would have done it already if I was actually doing it. Instead of whining about how everyone else's relationship is so good and mine's not that good. Get it? Like, we're insane. It's fun though. And then go to slide 31. So we skipped over a couple things, but I want to talk a little bit about dedication. Like, what are we dedicating? Like, there's this whole idea of like, oftentimes we'll say at the end of a class, dedicate the good karma, give the good karma away, right? What does that mean? Like, how do you give the good karma away when literally we tell you you can't do that? Because if someone could give you the seeds, they would have already done it for you because there would be an infinitely compassionate being who would have done it for you and made you not suffer. right? If a Buddha could give you their seeds, they would have. What's the proof that they didn't? Butt masks. The fact that you're worried about your aging butt and that they sell a product that helps it. That's the reason why a Buddha can't give you seeds. Okay. Just kidding. And we talk about dedicating our seeds, right? What does that mean? And what it generally mainly means is that when we do a good deed, we're then trying to direct it towards a result that we want to see. Like, sure, okay, I need some money. I'm going to go give some money to somebody else. I'm going to help somebody in a 4-step plan. Great. Right? That's one way of doing it. Right? But then when you think about the seed afterwards and you do a dedication, one, you're rejoicing in it. You're adding more power to it, right? And then you're guiding it, like you're basically adding more, if you want to think of it this way, you're adding more time to it, you're adding more fertilizer to it. But if you start thinking about it like a bodhisattva, it's like, well, I really wish that everybody had all the money they needed in the world and no one would have to do a 4-step plan anyway. Right? May this seed serve to be the seed that ends the need for people to get money. May this seed serve to become the seed that will then push me over into my total enlightenment so that I can really help everyone. So you're basically taking the seeds and you're guiding them. You're guiding their energy. You're not giving them away to other people. Like, if I could, I would. Like, even if someone else could have, they would have. But you're guiding it, you're dedicating it, you're offering it. Like, you're doing something with what you can take the most, translators, here's a new word, banal thing, the most normal of the normal thing that you do on a daily basis, like brushing your teeth, right? And you can, if you know how to dedicate properly, you can use those seeds to help accelerate your path to total enlightenment. Just blinking, right? Eating, the way you walk. Like, can you walk in a way that's planting seeds for other people? Like, I was walking down the street today and there was all these people and there was just this energy, right? And, there's the energy of a city, but there was this particularly busy, like stressful area. And I was like, I'm going to walk slow and relaxed. I'm going to breathe deeply, like I'm walking on a beach for others, because they were all like, So even each step, each gesture can be a seed for something greater than just the movement of my hand or the scratching of the itch on my head or the drinking of the water, And so you can transform all of those things. And what Shantideva is offering us is a way to do that. Don't waste your opportunities. Everyone thought he was just pooping, sleeping, and eating. But maybe he knew the secret to dedicating all of his actions. even the ones, the most banal ones, the most boring things, right? Could you eat, sleep, and poop your way to total enlightenment? That's a good t-shirt. But what are we wishing for? Like, what are we wishing for ourselves, right? We're wishing that we can become enlightened through our good deeds, right? So that we can become something. We can become the medicine for those that are sick. We can become the cure. We can become the physician. We can become the food and drink that people need. We can become the very things that people and all beings wish for in a temporary sense and a ultimate sense. Like that wish is to be what people need to bring themselves to peace, to comfort, and eventually to a place where they can arrive at that ultimate peace. Right? So to be that for those people. So when I was walking down the street, I was like, well, maybe I can be that. Maybe I can be that relaxation for them because of the stress or whatever was happening. Right? I don't know if anybody watched me. I don't know. Wasn't paying attention. I wasn't focused on whether they were or not, or whether I was helping them. But what if I was also imagining, like, what if everyone was walking around Taipei like this? That would be a total different city. It's like, wow. And so like those are the things you can do. That like I was just walking from a cafe back to the hotel, right? You can take a normal walk and you can turn it into something much greater. And then of course you can do a little bit more and you can be like, well, who are all those people? And they could be Buddhas and all that stuff too. You know. And so in doing so, because I had a little special moment, I ended up buying new shoes. I'll tell you that story later, but they're great shoes. All right, let's move on to the next class here. All right, here's some motivation that Shantideva gives us now. Right now that we're kind of on this, we're kind of feeling like, I don't know if you're feeling it, I'm feeling it. If you're feeling like, wow, I could do this wish for enlightenment thing. I could try. I could try to do this. We're not going to be perfect at it. We're going to make the mistakes. Don't worry. Don't worry when we do. But here's some motivations that he gives us. Once we get there, like there's this feeling that arises that he says, so slide 4. Oh, you're already on it. Our lives become more fruitful. Okay. Like it becomes more exciting, right? Like the boring walk between the cafe and the hotel became exciting, right? And it was really fun, actually. I told you I ended up buying new shoes. Like it was like, and I've needed new shoes, and they just appeared, and they appeared because of a whole series of attitudes that I think that I was having in that moment. Right? Helping people, right? And then some guy helped me buy my new shoes. It was great. I haven't met anyone in Taipei that speaks that good in English. Like it was amazing, right? And he's never left Taipei. That was the weird thing. I was like, where did you learn English? It's like, I've lived here all my life and I sell shoes. I'm like, okay. So your life becomes fruitful, right? Second, next slide is that we celebrate that we've truly achieved a human life. Like most of us don't think about this. Most of us don't spend the time thinking, oh, I'm so happy I'm human. Like, we don't go, well, I'm so happy I'm not a cat, or I'm so happy I'm not a dog, or I'm not a earthworm, right? Sometimes you do, but like we don't think about how great it is to be human. Because those other forms of life don't have the capacity to do this yet. What's next? Well, this is what happens when you take your bodhisattva vows. You become part of the family of the Buddhas. Here they are sitting around the table. This was AI 3 years ago. Much better now. Next slide. Hey, there it is, Brian. Right. It's a family of Buddhas. This is when AI didn't understand really what you meant. But it was cute. How much has changed in 3 years? It's pretty amazing. And then the next one is, the next slide is that, we've become a child of the Buddhas. We are on our way. Why does Shantidevas give us all these different points of view? Because some days to think that you're the child of a Buddha is motivating. But other days you have different seeds and it may not be. So in that sense, like grab onto the ones that are meaningful to you now, but then they might change next week, or they might change in a couple of days. Or if you go through a rough period, you might think, I don't know, I don't know about this bodhisattva thing. I've been in those places several times. 15, 16 years since I met Geshe Michael, 17 years, something like that. I've had my dark days, dark periods, right? And then I've had to pull myself out, and having all these different nuggets to pull from. One of them, if the Buddhas understand us completely, they understand what we're going to need at all the different phases. Right? It's all there. And the more you study this, the more you get this weird suspicion that might be true. That they've been speaking to us all the time, and they're just dropping the things we need to know as we go along. It's like the breadcrumbs were already there, right? We just weren't paying attention at first, but once you start paying attention, it gets it's very suspicious. All right. So what are the different things that the wish for total enlightenment does for you? What does it remove for you? Next slide. It eventually destroys the Lord of Death. That's cool. Like this is the wheel of life. It destroys that constant cycle of death, in between, and rebirth. Eventually. That's cool. Next slide. It destroys poverty within all living beings. All right, we'll talk about this in a second. This is a question. The question comes up later on. Does the perfection of giving mean that everyone gets what they want? Like, if does the perfection of giving mean that everyone gets what they want and then poverty is eradicated? We'll talk about that in a second. It destroys illness. Next slide. I'm not going to comment on all these. I will never get through everything. Next slide. It destroys the general suffering of the cycle of life, just the going around. All right. And more specifically, last slide is it destroys the suffering of the lower realms. That's what your wish does. That's what the power of that is. To be able to end this. So next slide. So the question that comes up is how? More I look at this, these teachers are weird looking. How? How do they remove these sufferings? How does the wish do it? And as we said earlier, it's not by, I wish I could just give you my seeds. Like the Buddha is just throwing their seeds out, like throwing diamonds out and everyone just picking them up, right? But it's more that what a Buddha can do is they can look at you and know what to say and what to do and what to teach that can help you do it yourself. That's how they do it. When you know all things, when you have that omniscience, what does the omniscience do for you? Knowing all things is just, you know what to say. You know what can help somebody. And if you have omniscience about past, present, and future, the things that you're saying now also, are going to be affecting the beings in the future too. So you're speaking not for now, you're speaking for them as well. And that's pretty cool. And then it flips it around. And then you get to think, well, if that's true, and if it's true that there was a Buddha, then they know that we were having this class right now. They knew what we were going to meet. They knew when they spoke 2,500 years ago that what they said would be coming out right now. They knew that we'd be on Zoom, we'd all be looking at each other's faces. And we knew that Shantideva would have his Mr. Three Thoughts thing, and then he would write in the book, and then we would then be talking about that, 1,500 years later, 1,400 years later, right? So in a way that those messages, could they have been messages for us? And they weren't messages for us. If you believe that a Buddha doesn't exist, then what they said before was for us right now. And they were like, I know what's going to help you. Even when it's 10:45 at night and your eyes are just like trying to stay awake. They're all falling asleep here. I have to, I got to tell some jokes or something. Okay. But it's really like, if you really get into that suspicion, it also changes the way that the seeds are planted, as Shantideva would say. How do I want to do this? All right, then Shantideva goes off on an entire discussion on what mental afflictions do to us. What do they do to us? Which is literally every negative thing that's running through your mind. You know, and let's go to slide 17, Brian. The problem is that in some sadistic way, we make friends with our greatest enemies. We make friends with our negativities, our mental afflictions, what we call them in old Buddhism, right? And in some way we're attached to them. Somehow we like them. Somehow we think they're part of us. We don't want them, but we do want them. Right? Like there's this, when you really look at it, like if you didn't want it, you would do all the things to stop it. But somehow we entertain these negativities and we give them homes, right? And there's a million reasons why we do that. And you can look at your own particular flavor for that. And we all have it, right? But we make friends with it when we shouldn't be making friends with them. And how do we then navigate all of that? And that's what he says is like, and how does he define it? That's the interesting thing. How does he define it? Next slide, Brian. Is that a mental affliction, a negativity is anything that ruins your peace of mind. Right? And that's a very subtle thing to say. In this picture here, this guy's trying to meditate and his kids are not allowing him. That's what's going on in your head. Every single time you're trying to do some kind of high spiritual practice and you're trying to do something good because you actually are convinced of it, your next obstacle, you're able to convince yourself of it. You're here, you're in class. We're all in class. You spend hours listening to these things. Like you wouldn't spend hours listening to me blah blah about this if you didn't like already think it was useful for you. But then when you actually turn into practice, that's what we were talking about in the last class or earlier in this class, I can't remember, like the space between the thinking and the action, the gap, right? The listening and the doing. It's the same thing. Like you're already convinced. You don't have to be convinced anymore from that point of view. But the moment you try to practice and you're like, I'm going to do this, it's like this all the time. Like the noise in our experience is just tremendously overwhelming. Everyone knows the first time you try to meditate. And the first complaint you have to your teacher is, I've been meditating and my mind is just getting worse and worse. I'm not getting better, I'm getting worse. And then the teacher starts laughing. Ha ha ha. You're not getting worse. You're just listening for the first time. You're just listening to what was already there and you just didn't notice it. Right? It's like one of my good friends, we're our karmic partner, and we've been focusing on issues of health. Tim, have a karmic partner, maybe things get better. And they have been because I have a karmic partner now. And we were talking about eating, and we recognized that how important diet is to our health. And we tried the experiment. We took sugar out of our diet, all processed sugar, like very little fruit, no candies, no sodas, no ice creams, no sugar and coffees. I mean, it was complete take it all out. And then you notice the things that have a lot of carbohydrates in it that you didn't realize had carbohydrates. And you're just constantly eating these things that aren't good for your body. But once you kind of take it out and you go through this sort of like process, then when you put it back in, then you feel what it actually does to you. Right. And I remember we had a meeting with my karmic partner and they said, yeah, I was driving late and I was super tired. And so I stopped at the gas station and I got a bottle of Coca-Cola to stay awake. I was like, oh, how'd that go? And they said, oh my God, I felt terrible. Yeah, the caffeine helped a little bit, but the sugar, and then of course the sugar in Coca-Cola is not sugar, it's poison sugar. If you really look at it, it's no good for you. Sorry, I know you like to drink it. I used to like to drink it too. You're young. When your body revolts, you'll stop drinking it. But don't get to a point where your body revolts. Just stop now. But basically, it's like what it did to their body. Like they could feel the sugar rise. They felt terrible. They went to bed. And then 3 hours after going to bed, they had a crash. They woke up in the middle of the night. They felt terrible. They were incredibly hungry. They raided the refrigerator, all of these things. And then they were like, oh my God, because I didn't realize what this was doing to my body. Like this week, I haven't been drinking coffee for 8 months. And I was like, let me try this out. Oh, what does that do to my body? Like the caffeine, oh my gosh. Like I can feel the intensity, but I didn't feel it before. Was it doing it before? Yes. You just didn't notice. And that's what happens with our spiritual practice. We start to do it, then all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, it's a jungle in here. It's a zoo in here, right? My life is a zoo, right? Just chaotic animals running everywhere, you know. And that's what happens. Then you start recognizing that, wow, there's a lot of work to do. And it can be a lot, right? And then what happens to a lot of people is the application becomes so much that they can't hold on to it, or they don't want to continue, or they're not seeing the changes they want to see yet, right? I mean, just imagine if you looked at your zoo and none of the animals had cages for eons, and you're trying to put them in cages. You're trying to like feed them in the right, you're trying to create order. Like it's gonna take some time. It's gonna be mayhem for quite a while. You don't need the motivation. You don't need the motivation to be in class. You need the motivation to do it. That's the hard part. So what are the 6 afflictions that get in our way? Slide 19. Liking things ignorantly. Right? Basically, what this means is that you want things, but you don't know how to get them. And so you just take them. Like this donut, right? You just take it and didn't know how you got the donut in the first place. Next slide. The opposite, disliking things ignorantly, trying to push away things you don't like in the wrong way, with misunderstanding. Like, how do you make a problem go away? You just yell at somebody, right? Well, did that, was that really the cause of that problem? Did the yelling stop the problem? If the yelling stopped the problem, then every time you yelled at someone, it would stop all the problems, right? You know, how do you get rid of things you don't like? Well, again, it's the whole thing about understanding the real cause versus the apparent cause. But this is what's happening in our mind all the time. Like the zoo in our mind, it's not even a zoo. It's like Jurassic Park Island when they turn off all the gates, right? And all the animals just break out, right? And then everyone's running around trying not to get eaten by the velociraptors. Sorry, translators. Do you know how to say velociraptor in your language? It's kind of Tyrannosaurus Rex. I don't know. They're all just running around and you're trying to capture a wild dinosaur that just wants to eat you, right? Like it's gonna be a little while, like, because everything you want and everything you don't want, you've been trying to get and get rid of in a wrong way. And then you're trying to clear up your mind in the wrong way too. Sorry to drop that bomb. You're trying to capture that velociraptor in your mind and you're not even using seeds. You think you're using seeds, but you're not, right? Where does good meditation come from? Use the 5 Houses app. No. It comes from taking care of other people's minds first. All right, third main mental affliction, negativity. Pride. This one's amazing. We all have this. And this takes many, many forms. And the way that I like to think of it for myself is that I am the hero of my own story. Right? I'm the center of my universe, which is kind of true in some ways. Right? But it takes on different flavors for different people. Like that feeling that somehow I'm right and you're wrong. Or I'm better than you in some way. Like the little, it's subtle, but this little comparison that you go, because you want to feel important. Your mind is designed to make you feel important. Parentheses, I didn't say you weren't important. I didn't say that. But this kind of pride is a protection mechanism. All right. And so in some way you feel important in such a way that you're willing to do it to hurt other people, to judge other people, to think bad things about them, to get things ignorantly, etc., 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 etc. Yeah, so Shanti Deva's like, hey, like look at yourself. Like, look at this. I don't know. What dinosaur would be a pride dinosaur? I don't know. All right, next one is just general ignorance. All right. Like kids are like this. They don't want to listen to their dad or their parents. La 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 la. I can't hear you. Da, 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 right? Right. That's literally us all the time. La 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 la. Not coming this way, it's coming this way. You know, it's just the way it goes. All right, next one is doubt. Teso. Like doubt about wisdom, the doubt about in yourself, the doubt that you can do it, the lack of belief in yourself. This is like the opposite of pride. Pride is like, I'm awesome and you're not. Doubt is like, I'm actually not awesome and I'm never going to do anything with it, which is in some ways a kind of pride too, right? But a lot of this is about like doubt that the truth can help you. And then the next one, Brian, are just wrong views in general. And there's 5 or 6 of them, and it's a whole class to go through all of those. But it's all the ways that we misunderstand karma and emptiness, karma and its consequences, excuse me. Misunderstanding the parts of you, extreme views, thinking that wrong views are the correct views, your pride. Your pride is also mixed up with wrong. They're all mixed up, right? It's all jumbled together. And then thinking that, doing things to hurt yourself is the best spiritual practice. Like self-deprecation with, hurting yourself to get ahead spiritually. So there's this fun thing. Next slide. Gyaltsab J says, well, someone comes along and says, isn't love and dedication for the path and then hatred of your mental afflictions also a mental affliction? Is it also not ignorant? Not wanting your mental afflictions and then wanting enlightenment in the wrong way because we're not Aryas? Isn't that an affliction itself? Pretty smart debater, right? It's like, oh, I'm sorry. You're just using mental afflictions to point out that you're using mental afflictions to actually try to get out of samsara. Are you kidding me? You're just planting more seeds for it. Your hatred for your mental afflictions is not a mental affliction. Come on. Understand the question? And so what he says is, how does he say it? Make sure I got it correct. He says, it's sort of like what I was saying earlier about the matrix. You have to use elements of it to turn itself over itself. Like use the elements that are present to kind of break it. And he said, hatred for your mental afflictions is not something you want to eliminate. You want to continue to battle those. Love for the path is something that you want to battle. They are part of the path. Like not being unhappy with your ignorance is probably a good thing. You may not be there yet, which is kind of what the question earlier was. It's like, I'm not there yet. I feel hopeless. That's okay. We're not there yet, but that's part of the path to get there. So the path itself, you use certain kinds of energies that are in deceptive reality to then unwind the whole thing, just like the Matrix. Use it against itself. And then eventually those things disappear, right? Because as those negativities disappear, then your hatred for the thing that's not there disappears because it's not there anymore to hate. That makes sense. I'm sorry, translator's doing okay. I'm watching you guys here. Eventually you have to let that go, but you let it go because you've already come to some kind of stopping of them. So then there's no need to have it anymore, right? You let it go when there's no need. And then Shantideva says, how is the continued appearance of some kind of negativity, how is it that it depends upon a misperception? And why is it important that we know that the continued existence of your negativity depends upon a misperception? Your anger as it goes on depends upon a misperception, right? Your pride depends upon that. But why is it important to know that? Okay. What's on the screen right now? Something from Mars? No. Make me say we Terchen Chen Res the dreamy German Marco Jumbo Young Dubo Malo Jumbo Sawa Da Ganchen Kepe Super Soga Ba Soka Ba Lopsan Drakba Shab Lopsan Drakbe Shabla Solondeb. All right, this is the Jason Kappa mantra. All right. And I want to focus on the first part here, Mikme Sewe. All right. Which is love that doesn't see. Right. It's love that doesn't see anything. Okay. So why is it important that we know that a continued existence of a mental affliction is dependent upon a misperception? Because once you eradicate the misperception, you eradicate the negativity. Right? Eyes that don't see anything. What does that mean? It's not like they're looking out into the void and not seeing, they're seeing black, black, black. Right? That's not what that means. An eye that doesn't see anything, love that doesn't see anything, understands where it's coming from in the first place. And it wasn't there to begin with, on its own, from its own side, independent of how you treated others in the past. Because the eyes that see that absence of its own existence, independent. What Shantideva is saying is, look, you can spend all your time focusing on pride or your anger or your jealousy or all the other 20, there's 20 other like secondary mental afflictions. You can do all the seeds for that. You can spend all the time being like, I feel hopeless, or I feel this, or I feel that, or I don't know why I have to see that. I don't know why I have to see this. You can do all that, and that's part of the process. But once you eradicate the misperception, all of that other stuff just vanishes completely. The root of it is just vanishes. If you take away the root, the rest of the tree can't stand. If all of our negativities are based upon a misperception, focus at the root. Don't worry about, should I plant seeds for money or a partner and all of other stuff. I didn't say don't do that. Didn't say don't help other people. That's not what I'm saying. But can you infuse all of that with and dedicate those seeds to removing your misunderstanding? Everything you do serving other people can be dedicated to eradicating that misperception, pulling that misperception out, pulling that root out. And then you have the eye of wisdom. And all that other stuff just like evaporates. Right? Anytime you get close to those negativities, you just go, no. And then it loses its power, its grip over you. Next slide. This is when my nerdery comes out. This is the Starship Enterprise. From The Next Generation, the series I grew up with, the moral backbone of my childhood. And there's something interesting that happens in this world. Okay. So Shantideva says to us, and this is how Star Trek relates to Shantideva. Shantideva says, I asked this question in the beginning, and I was hoping we would get here in time. Shantideva says, does the perfection of giving depend upon the external perfection? Like, by giving things away, say to people in need, people in poverty, hungry people, if you reach the perfection of giving, does that mean that all of those things go away? Does that mean that poverty goes away, that hunger goes away, that illness goes away? Right? Or does it mean like you haven't reached the perfection until that happens? Right? Then somehow there's something wrong with your perfection of giving because, people are still hungry. Right? That's the question he's asking. All right. So why do I have a picture of the Starship Enterprise? Okay. Because in this world, and this is the world, this is the imaginary that I grew up with when I was a kid. So when we're doing these meditations from Geshe Michael's new meditations from Malaysia and in the subsequent ones, and we're thinking about the books and the songs and the television shows and the things that appeared in our world, and we try to logically figure out, if this was here for me, what seeds did I plant in the previous life to create this, right? This is what I grew up with, right? This universe is 300 years in the future, and they've achieved a certain kind of perfection, right? And have a couple quotes that I happen to just know. Okay, because I'm a nerd, right? And one of them is that there's an episode where they meet somebody from our time period, from the 20th century. Okay. And the captain says, a lot has changed in 300 years. And he says, people are no longer obsessed with the accumulation of things. We've eliminated hunger, want, and the need for possessions. It's it's a pretty cool world to think about, a place where they don't want things in the same way. They don't need to have stuff, like how much stuff we need. We don't need a shopping mall full of butt masks. Oh, right. Actually, it's that way. They don't have hunger anymore. They've created all the technology that if you need it, it's just available, right? And so the question is, did humanity perfect giving? Right? That's my question. Did they perfect giving because they eliminated hunger? Right? And this is what Shantideva asks. What's a perfection and what's the result of the perfection? Like, is the result of the perfection something external, like there's no hunger left? And we have to think of this in this way, that if removing all hunger was the essence of the perfection of giving, or removing all poverty, then the enlightened beings of the past would have eliminated, could not have perfected giving. All right, I'll say it again. If removing the poverty of the world is the essence of the perfection of giving, then the enlightened beings of the past would not have perfected giving. Why? Because we see poverty around us all the time, right? And so the perfection of giving is defined in a really cool way. Is the perfection of willingness to give. Okay. Is the willingness to give the things that you have. Right? And that's always, always, always lost or explained within one's current ability. Right? I could empty my bank account right now and just give all the money away. But then I wouldn't be able to pay my bills. I wouldn't be able to eat. Like the willingness to give doesn't mean you give away everything. You give it away with your current ability to give away. And so there's certain kinds of rules about giving. All right. And so slide 30, Brian. For example, like when you partake of food, ideally is that you should give equal parts to everybody. Like take a big bowl and be like, here's my plate of food, and well, you only get one bite. You're smaller than me. It's okay. Right? You only need that. I need all of this, right? And there is a difference between, I was watching this guy this morning at breakfast. Like I get these little tiny bowls of kanji, And he was just like, and I'm like, dude, what are you eating? And like, the guy is huge. I mean, he's like 200 centimeters and I don't know kilograms, but probably 100, 110 kilograms. The guy was big. Okay. And he's just shoveling the food in, right? Like, it's not what it means. I mean, it's like giving equal share to people. Like, when you have food with everybody, like, make sure everybody has some and has enough. And the idea is a lot of times you do it in your own mind. Like, I got offered a plate of food. There's no one else around me, but I can have in my mind that I should offer an equal share to all the different kinds of beings, all the animals, all the spirits, all the people who are sick, all the people who have no one to protect them. Right? And you should only eat what you need to eat. Right? Don't take more than what you need. And our culture is, I mean, not so much here in Taiwan, but in the United States, people are incredibly unhealthy and they eat way more than they ever possibly need to eat to survive. It's like it's an obsession and it's a hoarding, mine, right? And you can see it in the culture, you can see it in the politics, you know, mine, keep it for me, don't share. And so the idea is that Shantideva says that a bodhisattva, so there's the monk level, and then there's the bodhisattva level. And the bodhisattva should even go to the place of giving away the possessions they have, give away everything except for their robes, right? They need their robes still, right? You should be able to give everything away when you're ready to. And that's the rule, when you're ready to. And we'll talk about it in a second. Next slide. You should also at the same time protect your body and not do things to your body that could hurt it. Like skydiving. Sure, skydiving's fun. It's exhilarating. Look, these guys are having a good time. I looked at this picture and I was like, I really hope the parachute opens. Like, I was trying to imagine myself doing this and like packing my own parachute and like, is it gonna work? And then worrying about it. And one of my friends broke his leg landing, shattered his leg, couldn't walk again. Well, walked, but kind of walked with a limp, right? Like, don't do things that risk your body. Why? Because this body is the only thing that is your body is the vessel that can become enlightened. If you risk that body for minor goals, like skydiving, or doing things to it for a short-term benefit, like some people, that I was trying to think of examples earlier today, like people who inject themselves with hormones like testosterone to get like overly bigger muscles, right? Like, for what purpose? It hurts your body in the long run. It makes you sick in the long run. But to do things to care for it, like to see this as a holy vessel, right? I've told you all the story about when I was in Malaysia and I got on a scooter And the first thing that happened is I ran off the road and fell and landed on my head and scraped my whole side of my body. And the first thing I thought was, this is why Geshe Michael told me not to get on a scooter, because it's dangerous, right? You know, like, you got to think that way. Like, what kind of car do you buy? Do you wear your seatbelt? What's the chance of getting in a car accident where you're going to need the seatbelt? Very small. But if you get in that accident, and you don't have the seatbelt on, it's going to hurt or die. Right? So Shantideva is saying, look, like, you got to take care of this. Don't do unnecessary harm to it. First of all, eat what you need. Don't overeat, because overeating causes problems. Share. Secondly, take care of this body. It's going to get old. If you're lucky, it gets old. Meaning, if you live long enough, right? And then thirdly, this is what I wanted to talk about before we end, is that when we're talking about giving, and this idea of like the perfection of giving, the willingness to give, right? When is the proper time to do it and to give one's own body, right? Because you've heard the stories of the bodhisattvas of like, oh, you need an eye? Here's my eye, right? And I give you my eye, and then you can see again, right? You know, most of us probably aren't willing to give an eye. And even if we had a moment of like, I'm going to give my eye, and you're just like, you would probably have regret afterwards, right? I would imagine, right? Not only the pain, but then you can't see, right? And so you have to be in a very, very high place to be able to give your body. To the point where you would really be able to perfect giving on that level, right? So don't take those stories literally. Like, you're not a bad bodhisattva if you don't give your eyeball, right? Or cut off part of your body. Or, you know, I use this example about a kidney, right? Because Geshe Michael's looking for a kidney transplant, right? You know, and a healthy person can give one of their kidneys and be fine, right? But even then, like, I've thought about it and I'm like, yeah, I can give that to my teacher. And then I'm like, can I? Like, how would I feel about that? Like, this, you know, besides, if even if I were a candidate, right? The whole process of the surgery and the recovery, you know, and then knowing that, you know, this could affect me later in life. If I get my own kidney disease, now I only have one kidney, right? You know, there's all these possibilities, right? And so the idea is that if you would regret it, you know, you're not ready for it. Like, there's a story of Ken Rinpoche. One of his students was so devoted after like a really big teaching. It said, I want to give you a house, and like, you know, let me give you my house. You need a much nicer house. And he said, no. You know, and Geshe Michael's like, you know, Rinpoche, we could really use the house. You know, like, we could really use this. And he said, no, she's going to regret giving that away. Right. And so, like, that's where you have to work with what's within your means. But it doesn't mean that you're reducing the power of your giving by giving within your means. Right. So there's all these stories about bodhisattvas that do all these great things, these extraordinary acts of giving. And Shantideva is saying, just plain old lettuce. Like, plain old kindness, just simple giving presents, not gifts, but like giving your presence in their person, in their, it's another word for that, being present with people, listening, your time, your energy, your care, your love, all of those things are giving. And as you get better at it and stronger with it, then you become less attached to your things and you know how you got the things in the first place. So then it becomes easier to give extra things. It becomes easier to say, here, have my jacket, here, have this extra shirt, have this extra money. I have a bank account that's just for people's other people's emergencies. But there are times that I'm like, wow, I really could use that money because I'm kind of having an emergency too. And then I have to check in with my motivation. Like, no, that was guided towards other people. But in a pinch, would I take the money for myself? Would I let myself starve because I said that money was for somebody else? Then you're violating the other rules of care, right? But I'm doing fine financially. So and why am I doing fine financially? Because I have this other account that I give money to, that I put money in every month. And then when someone has an issue, I'm like, oh, look at this. Like, here's $1,000. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And it's so joyful, right? So if you're having money issues, take 5%, 3%, make a special bank account or piggy bank or whatever, right? And just collect that money for other people within your means. Some people make a lot of money, they can do 10%, but maybe only 1% for you at this point. It doesn't matter. It's not about who's better Dharma practitioner because again, how we started the class. You're not better because you save 10% and I only save 1%. The person with 1% has an equal chance of becoming enlightened as the person who's saving 10%. You have to understand why. Okay. So we didn't cover every little piece of that class. We only missed, there's only one section we missed. We just missed the section on how the 6 perfections relate to each other. And you can do that in your study groups. Wow, I got through everything. Oh my gosh, that was an epic class. Hi, it's good to see all of you again. We're now 2/3 of the way through. ACI 16 is done. ACI 17 is now done. We have one course left, everybody. Let's finish strong, okay? This, by the way, for those who don't know, this whole course series is called Completion Karma. Let's finish the 18 courses, right? There's a power in doing this together. There's a power in getting through all of the prescribed courses from Geshe Michael. But what it'll do to your mind to actually finish it, you wait, okay? Just you wait. It's pretty cool. And I know a lot of the group here, we're only halfway through. Don't worry, we'll get them done. But those of you online, we only have one left. Keep going. We have September, October, November, December, January. We have 5 more months left. Okay. We can do this. And ta-da, we have a transmission in a month and a half. Okay. Good job. Look at your completion karma created. You didn't have to finish the 18 courses to get a transmission. Get it? Everyone thinks you got to do your 18 courses to get Diamond Way. You don't have to finish it to get Diamond Way. Good job. Way to change the karma of that. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't finish. Okay. You know, I'm very, very proud of all of you who are doing this. I'm very proud of the study group leaders. I'm watching those. I'm watching the scheduling. I'm not actually going to the study groups. You know, it's an amazing, amazing thing what you're all doing. And what we're going to be doing after transmission, you have no clue what's coming. The way that with this number of people committed and shifting their seeds in this way, you have no idea what's coming. Like there's so much good coming. It's extraordinary. So I'm happy all of you are here. Thank you for joining. Tonight's my last night in Taiwan. I get to leaving tomorrow morning. So thank you all for hosting me here, letting me teach here while we're on this cool journey together. So thank you once again. And on your way out, please turn on your microphones and say goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye,
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Teacher.
Gracias. Adiós.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Спасибо, дорогой учительница.
Gracias.
Gracias,
Bye
por favor.
bye. Bye bye.
La vedere, mulțumim.
Дякую,
Благодарю.
Дякую
Muchas
всім.
gracias. Hasta luego.
Thank you,
Дуже дякую.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.